Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're focusing on something really sudden, catastrophic actually, that shocked everyone just a few days back. The tragic Air India flight AI-171 crash.
A truly terrible event.
Yeah. So we're going to try and unpack the key details, look at the investigation that's already underway, and, piece together what we know from the information out there.
Okay.
This all happened very recently, June 12th, 2025. It involved a Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner leaving Ahmadabad, headed for London Gatwick.
And it's quite, striking how quickly some of the pieces of this puzzle are starting to come together, even with such profound tragedy all around.
Right.
That's really thanks to the swift action of the different investigative bodies.
Makes sense.
The immediate aftermath, as you said, just devastating. Nearly everyone on board lost their lives, and significant casualties on the ground, too.
Yeah.
So our mission today really is to walk you through the timeline as we know it, the immediate impact, and those very early findings from the investigation.
Trying to give a clear picture without, information overload.
Exactly. A comprehensive view of where things stand right now.
Okay, so the flight itself, the details are incredibly sobering. We're talking Air India Flight 171. It was a Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner, registration VTANB, about 12 years old, roughly. On board, 230 passengers and 12 crew members.
So 242 people total.
Correct. It took off from Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel International Airport in Ahmadabad at 1:38 p.m. Indian Standard Time, and then just seconds later, an emergency Mayday call. The plane, it only climbed a few hundred feet, apparently, then just abruptly descended.
So barely got off the ground.
Exactly. And here's where it gets, crucial. There's CCTV footage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it captured the plane flying unusually low, its landing gear was still down, and it looked like the flaps might have been misconfigured.
Which would severely impact lift, especially right after takeoff.
Right, and then it crashed, tragically, into the BJ Medical College hostel. That's in the Meganagar neighborhood.
Oh, goodness. Right into a building.
Yeah. The human cost is just... It's heartbreaking. 241 of the 242 people on board perished.
Almost everyone.
And on the ground, at least 38 people confirmed killed students, staff, and over 60 injured.
That ground impact adds another layer of tragedy. Now, when we look at what happened right after the crash, there's one detail that really just stands out.
The survivor.
The sole survivor, yes. Viswash Kumar Ramesh. He's a 40-year-old British Indian man.
Incredible. How?
Well, he was seated in 11A, which is near an emergency exit. Somehow he managed to escape through an exit and essentially walked away from the burning wreckage.
Walked away.
With relatively minor injuries, apparently.
Yeah.
Well, many are calling it a miracle, and you can understand why.
Absolutely.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? What specific, tiny circumstances allowed him to get out when, 241 others didn't?
Yeah, the location near the exit must have been key.
Proximity, maybe how the fuselage broke apart near his section. It's just an incredible detail in all this. For you listening, what part of this whole thing is most striking to you so far?
It's hard to process it all. But what seems clear now is that a huge effort to figure out what went wrong is already moving fast.
Right. The investigation kicked off almost immediately.
Yeah, both black boxes, the flight data recorder, the FDR, and the cockpit voice recorder, the CVR, they were found remarkably quickly.
Which is vital. That data is everything.
And their analysis is already happening. India's AAIB, the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, they're leading the probe.
Okay.
But they've got crucial support from the US NTSB, the UK's AAIB, Boeing naturally, and India's own DGCA, the Director General of Civil Aviation.
A big international collaboration then.
Absolutely. And the Indian DGCA, they've already ordered inspections on all Boeing 787s operating in India.
A precautionary measure makes sense.
Plus, there's a high-level government committee chaired by the Home Secretary that's overseeing the whole investigation. So it's a massive collaborative effort right from the get-go.
Yeah, and that immediate, very broad collaboration often suggests, it might suggest the initial signs point towards something potentially systemic, maybe not just a one-off mechanical failure.
Ah, interesting point.
It definitely escalates the urgency and the scope, and what the early analysis seems to indicate is likely a combination of factors, not just one single thing.
Right. It's rarely just one isolated cause these days, isn't it?
Almost never with modern aircraft. It's often the confluence, the coming together of several issues, some potential technical things they're looking at, maybe engine failure or some loss of thrust.
Okay.
The flap misconfiguration you mentioned, that's definitely on the table. The landing gear is still being extended. And then there are environmental factors too. Warm temperatures, a heavy fuel load for the long flight. Both can affect lift, especially at takeoff. It ties into something called density altitude.
Right. Density altitude, basically how the air density affects performance.
Exactly. Thinner air, less lift. So they'll be looking hard at that too. We should get a preliminary report, probably within about 3 months.
Okay, 3 months for the initial findings. Now, turning to the wider response, it's been pretty swift, hasn't it? Both from Air India and internationally.
Yes, it seems so.
It really underscores the global impact. Air India and the Tata Group's chairman, N. Chandrasekaran, he called it the most heartbreaking crisis.
Understandably.
And he's publicly pledged to build a safer airline. There's obviously going to be scrutiny on Air India's revitalization under Tata Sons now.
That's inevitable in these situations.
And on the financial aid side, VPS Health has pledged 6 crore rupees, that's about $730,000 US, to support victims' families.
That includes those affected on the ground, too?
Yes, including the medical students and staff at the college. Internationally, as we said, the U.S., U.K., Boeing are all collaborating on the investigation.
Right.
The British government is helping its affected nationals, and leaders from several countries have sent condolences.
It really is compelling, though, to see the methodical approach they take to uncover the truth in these situations.
Yeah, it's a long process.
It is. And it's not just about finding one mistake, is it? It's about understanding that whole chain of events, every single link that led to the tragedy.
So lessons can actually be learned.
Precisely. For global aviation safety.
Yeah.
So the next steps, they're pretty clear. A really thorough analysis of all that black box data, the flight parameters, the cockpit audio.
Right.
Then a detailed review comparing flap settings, gear position, engine data against what the flight crew actually did based on the CVR.
Cross-referencing everything.
Exactly. Plus, digging into the aircraft's maintenance history, the pilot's training records. Very important.
It's an expanded procedure, but vital.
Absolutely. And simulating the environmental factors, that density altitude, the temperature, to see exactly what impact they had.
Right.
And finally, of course, a full forensic analysis of the wreckage at the crash site, looking at the structure, trying to reconstruct those final moments.
So quite a comprehensive list.
It has to be.
Okay. So we've taken a deep dive into these initial, quite raw details of Air India Flight 171. It's clearly a tragedy that happened incredibly quick.
At the blink of an eye, really.
But the investigation, as you've laid out, it's going to be a long, very meticulous process, all aimed at preventing anything like this from happening again.
Which leads to maybe a broader question for you to think about.
Okay.
In this age, with aviation technology getting more and more sophisticated, when we see multiple potential factors, mechanical, environmental, operational, maybe all contributing, what does a preventable accident truly mean anymore?
Good question.
And where does the ultimate responsibility lie when you have these incredibly complex systems? Something to keep in mind maybe as we see how all these different factors might connect as more details come out.